Hello everyone, this is the 1978 Revell kit. It was an open box. I got it at the last IPMS show. I had to put stuff in bins to do inventory because a lot of the parts were off the sprues already. Some were missing, but nothing that would stop the build. The pillars of the windshield were broken, as you can see here in the picture, but they were included. Here I did a dry fit so I can determine the left side and the right side of all the parts needed for the wheel assembly. And then just went ahead and sprayed them with a Tamiya rattle can. Here's the next set of parts. Engine parts, chrome parts, everything that needs to be black. So I am using the matte black. I prefer the Tamiya spray cans over other spray cans. It's a really fine spray. Dries really fast. It's consistent. The nozzle's really good on them. Here's the next set of parts. Same, black. Basically, if I need to spray black, I usually go to the Tamiya spray cans. It's quick, easy. Flip the parts over, do the other side. the trunk, the part that fits in this back part of the chassis, it just didn't fit. So I needed to make the holes bigger so I can fit it in there. A lot of the parts in this kit didn't fit. So you'll see here, I just keep going over and over until it fits really well and even. So now we're going to use semi-gloss for the chassis. My thinking here was, there was probably an undercoat maybe under the car, so I just wanted to break up the different black finishes. Silver leaf. So for the under the carriage there, do the silver parts. I didn't really have any good reference for the underneath of the Ferrari, so I kind of just did what I thought worked. No one's really going to look under there anyways. Here's the exhaust. So here I would have used a matte black. Then I masked them off and I went with bare metal silver, I believe it was called, for the tips. Just same, just trying to break up the different silvers. I have a bit of an inventory when it comes to black and silver Tamiya spray cans. Okay, so here I have silver leaf, the springs. Now these springs here, I should have put them together, puttied them, cleaned up the seams at the time. This is my third car build. I'm not a car build guy, so learn as you go. I'm not sure what these parts are called, but part of the wheel assembly, again, the bare metal silver. And here's the completed wheel assemblies on the chassis. And here's the underside. Turned out okay. And now onto the engine. We went with the bare metal silver. Here we're just getting ready to start putting the engine together. The radiator, going to use some Tamiya panel liner. Kind of use it as a wash. The way it's positioned in the car, you can't even really see it, so it's more for myself than for anyone else. And here I dry brush this, just give it some wear and tear. Here's the battery. I really like the way it turned out. It was a lot of fun to paint that little thing. And here is the engine, pretty much complete. It's really basic. Compared to all the reference I had, there's a lot of parts missing on this engine. And here we go with the interior. Looks like a semi-gloss I used on that. And here it is dry. Dry and a lot more flat. But it is semi-gloss. And so now we're going to mask so I can start painting the interior. And for the interior, I went with we're going to go with the tan, kind of an orangey brown tan. I really like that out of all the reference I saw. And just like everyone else, I hate masking, but it's got to be done, and I prefer to actually use tape. A lot of people I primarily do figures. A lot of people like to use silly putty and stuff like that for masking, but I prefer tape where it's best used. Here we're going to get the seats ready. We're going to trim some seam lines, or sand some seam lines. So the plastic was molded in different colors, but I'm gonna paint everything. We're gonna base coat everything black, and then we will paint the tan over top of that, so that way everything is consistent. And here we're using, I believe, semi-gloss. And now we're painting the orange brown tan. I made this with custom mix. I can't really remember what colors I used or what brand it was. Might have been Tamiya. So this would be just the base coat. I'm going going to go another coat over top to really punch up the orangey in the tan. A lot of the reference I saw, it really popped with the orangey brown tan, so I wanted to try and do the same. This is a new setup, so I have my cameras positioned and I'm still, getting used to where they should be, so I know this is not the best angle for you to see. I'll experiment with the cameras until I get it to where I like it. As I said, I'm not a car guy, so if you see something, let me know. I can use any tips to get better. I got a lot of cars in my stash, so I plan on putting them in between the figures that I make. Speaking of my stash, I have a pretty big stash. Leave me a comment if you think I should make a video showing everything in my stash. I did these in several coats. I did, first a really light coat and then went over, I think, one more time over top. So here they are. They look pretty flat and dull. Here just a test fit, just to see how it's going along. And now we are using the top coat. So here I would have added some candy orange to the mix, and it really punches it up, especially when you gloss over top of it. But I used a Vallejo. We'll see here in the video. Yeah, so you use a satin varnish, which just adds a bit of a gloss. I'm not a big fan of these Vallejo spray cans. I find them not to be very consistent when they spray out. Sometimes the burst will be too much. But unfortunately, I did not have a satin in either Tamiya or Mr. Hobby, so I was stuck having to use Vallejo. Not a big Vallejo fan. But you can see here, once we remove the masking, you can see how well the orangey brown pops. Now we are going to put some carpet in. This is my second attempt at doing this. It's a bit stressful. So I took the glue right out of the bottle. I should have watered it down. That's something I learned along the way. Somewhere throughout here I do water it down, but in the beginning I didn't. So for the flocking, it was flocking I had for years in storage. I can't remember the name brand. You would have saw it there in the tag. So I'll do the flocking in parts. And just lightly dust it over. Doing flocking is kind of a double-edged sword. You want to try and do it slowly, but at the same time try to do it fast so the glue isn't dry. So I guess that's where the water comes in. And you don't want to tap it off too quick either. You want the glue to actually dry. And it can be very messy working with the flocking. Now here I'm using this stir stick to push it down a bit. I should not have done that, because I've noticed when I was doing that it would kind of manipulate the glue that wasn't dry, and it would create bumps and stuff. So then you'd have to go back and fix it. So I try not to use the stir stick. But as I said, this is my only second time ever doing flocking. So let me know in the comments, what's the best way to do flocking? This is also my first time doing voiceovers, so bear with me. I'll get better in time. mats in the front there, I believe I did like a semi-gloss over top of them.
Sing a song full of hope, full of pain. Why don't you sing along, my friend? For it's our last refrain. Forever young, ever strong, ever brave. Memories like this never end. No, they don't fade away. So when I'm gone, oh, when I'm gone, I'll be right there, close to the sun. Keep holding on, keep holding on. And I'll be right there, close to the sun, close to the sun. Close to the sun.
So on to the decals here. So for the steering wheel, you saw there that there was a Ferrari emblem in the steering wheel, but it was so small and hard to paint. I just figured it'd be better just to go ahead and make my own decal and just put it over top.
Here's to the ones who let
I printed a bunch of different sizes
the ones who stood for
and
something long.
just chose the one that was the best.
The tide is high, say goodbye, say
Tester's paper is my preferred decal paper.
take 'em to the grave. So when I'm gone,
And then over top, I put a gloss, blob of gloss coat over top.
close to the sun.
The steering wheel here, I tried to simulate, the wood grain, whatnot, and then put a top coat over top of some of these golden transparents to tone it all down. Now this steering wheel was supposed to control, the left and right wheels, but those parts inside were missing. So the steering wheel just doesn't do anything, just sits there. But you can move the wheels back and forth manually. Here's the interior. For the inside of the dash there, I just did a wash over top and the details just came through. And you'll see there on the seats, I've done some panel liner in between all the lines of the seats, just to add a little bit of age to them, make them pop a bit. And the flocking turned out alright. I did have to go back and forth a few times, do some touch-ups here and there. Basically, this open box kit was kind of an experiment for me. It's my first time working on a large scale car, and I have quite a few in my stash, and so I wanted to get some practice done. It was perfect. I only paid like $40 for this kit. This is also only the third car I've ever built, so. So here we are fixing the pillars. So first I glued the pieces in and then used some metal pins to just reinforce it. My worry was that when I had to put the body over top of the rest of the car, that, you know, the pillars would break. So I wanted to add some strength there. So I used epoxy sculpt. I use this a lot in my figure work, and I use it with the solvent. Don't use this with water. Water will break it down and make it weak. You best to use it with their dedicated solvent. So basically, I'm hiding the metal wire there that I used, and just kind of building it out a bit. It's on the interior, so no one's really going to see it. You know, I'm just smoothing it out, and then later I'll come in and sand it. So I was missing the emblem in front. So I decided I would just 3D print one. So I needed to fill in this hole, or this indent. So I marked it off with the tape because I didn't want to get epoxy over the body and create more sanding for myself. Now I was also missing the left and right um, signals, lights. So I thought I'd be creative and just use leftover epoxy and squish it through just like it was Play-Doh when we were kids with that machine. I would shoot out the Play-Doh in different shapes. So I just used the epoxy and did that, smoothed it on the inside, and had this big chunk sticking out. And I would sand and file and just shape that into the shape of a lens or a light. So that's just a rough start there. I'll come in later with some putty and try to make it look a bit better. Here we just sanded off that front piece. More sanding, a lot of sanding here. Back and forth. And now here's the, I think this is the second coat of primer. So I went back and forth a few times with primer, just finding all the spots that needed attention, back and forth, until I was happy with it. You'll see there I drilled those little holes there where the emblem goes, so that when I do make my 3D print, I know exactly where the center is. And you see here I had to do some more sanding, so I'll just come in and just prime, just the spot prime certain areas after this. The pillars are working well here. So here I'm using the Tamiya putty, polyester putty. That stuff is not easy to find. It's kind of like epoxy sculpt, but it dries faster and it's softer. But when it dries hard, it's hard. And this is the last coat of primer that I'm about to put on. And this is the color I chose. It's by Zero Paints. It's my first time using this paint, and I really like that paint. It's not easy to find either. You gotta go online and get it mailed to you. And so here we are here's the first coat. I'm using a spray can as to hold the body up, taped to the Lazy Susan there. I did order a car stand, a larger scale stand, but it hadn't arrived yet. As I said, this is my third car. I mostly do figures, but I'm really enjoying doing car builds. When I go to the IPMS shows, the car categories are the ones that impress me most, just because they have to be perfect, showroom finish. And until you try to do your own car with a showroom finish, you realize pretty quick that it's not an easy thing to do. So I look forward to doing many more and getting better. So I'm just lightly spraying here and just going heavier and heavier as I go around and just get a nice solid color. This paint was perfect. There was no clogging, no issues. Didn't have to thin it down, just right out of the bottle. I use a lot of Createx paints, and in comparison, this paint was just a breeze to use. So here we're just going to do the inside of the trunk lid and the hood. I just wanted to get the edges, and then I would paint the other parts inside black just by hand. I think I did them by hand. These parts here are the inside of the headlights. So the majority of them are like inside the vehicle, like inside the holes there, the openings, and then the lights go over top. So most of what I'm painting here is not even that visible. And now we're doing top sides. Probably should have taped them down on the paper on the other side so they wouldn't move around. And here we are finished with the base coat. Came out really well. The color will pop once it's glossed. And here we are with first gloss coat. I used a KBS clear diamond finish. Comes in a can and you spray it through your airbrush. It's my first time using it. And then we are going to start wet sanding all the different grits that you see here and just try to get it as smooth as possible. But sanding makes a mess of your workbench, water everywhere, so I'm constantly wiping as I go. I'm trying to be careful not to put any pressure on the coolers as I wet sand. I'm only going to show the first grit here. I'm sure you don't want to see all the others. So here's the stand that arrived. I think this is like a stand for RC cars, but it works really well with the 1/12 scale kits, as you can see here. It's got a nice height so I can stick my hand underneath and hold it. So here we are, everything's wet sanded, ready for another coat of gloss coat over top. This is my first time using the 1K clear gloss coat, so I'm still on the fence whether I like it compared to Tamiya gloss coat. I'll try it a few more times. I did buy a bit of a large can of it though. Uh, Mixing it though, you do have to thin it down. And I'm not a big fan of having to thin stuff down or mixing colors. I like to buy stuff and just use it right out of the bottle. And here they are, finished. Came out okay. There's a few little things here and there, um, but I just left it. I did test fit the hood, and it didn't fit perfectly. It looked like the hood was a bit warped, so I'm not sure if that was the case or if it was the work I did on the pillars. So I kind of have to leave the hood open when it's being displayed because it kind of looks funny closed when it doesn't fully close. And I just left it to cure. I think for about I left it for like a week. And now for the interior, I never know what people do. Do they leave it? Do they paint it? Um, so I just anything that I thought would be visible, I just wanted to paint it black. And for the top headliner of the interior, I went with like a brown tan as well. I didn't film or take any pictures, but I did use 2-unit polishing compound and went through all the three different steps and polish the paint afterwards. And ready to start putting stuff together now. So then I started putting all the outside chrome on. Now for the chrome, I just left the stuff factory out of the box. Um, I'm not at that stage ready to start stripping chrome and painting chrome over top. Now here we have 1/6 eyes, like doll's eyes. Um, uh, I don't know if they're fog lights in the front, but they were missing. So I took these, sprayed half of them silver, and put them in the front. And now for the emblem here, I 3D printed it. I think I got this off CG Trader, and then just base coated it yellow, and then just painted the details by hand. It's really small, so it took a while to paint. A lot of back and forth and touch up. course, yellow is the worst color to paint with, so you can see here the coverage isn't great, but I went over top of that again to the yellow. Out of the bottle by hand.
It's so dark, out here in space.
For the doors, only one side I had the parts to make them open and close, but I couldn't figure out from the instructions how to do it. It was just too hard. So I left it, and I just placing the doors in manually like that. And even if the doors close, the top part of the door, it just doesn't fit right. So I'm really not sure if it's me or if it's just the kit. So I left it as is. I'll just leave the doors open in display mode. If I were to buy this kit again, I would glue the doors shut and just make it like a 1/24th scale style car where things don't open and close. The wheels were also a problem to put on. They just didn't fit right, and I had to file where they go into the post, and in the end one of the wheels I put a little bit too low, so the car leans a bit in the back. Also, I messed up the windshield, and I ended up having to use plastic mylar, and so I did the same with the back. And for the lights in the back, they didn't fit at all, and they didn't even look like they're supposed to look from the reference that I had. So something to think about if I buy this kit again, if there's something I can find to 3D print proper looking ones. And now we're ready for the turnaround. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you on the next one.